Hey, hey folks, this is Mark again at Jet Lending. Today I am talking with a very special person, and I'll tell you why, because this person is my realtor. Okay, and this is Azalia Mathis. We'll put her phone number here on the screen at 713-304-5361. Azalia is not just a realtor, she's an investor herself. She has completed a renovation on a flip, and she is now also renovated another property, which was right next door to the one I did. That's how we met, by the way.
Yeah.
And now I think that one she's now going to. You're getting a renter in that here soon. Is that
right? We have a couple of options and already some applications submitted, so it's very exciting.
So you got the flip on one side, and then you got the rental landlord aspect now coming online. So yeah, you're
right.
Leaps and bounds ahead of me here. So
no.
I'm gonna have to get going and catch up with you. So
sure thing.
I wanted to just visit a little bit and compare notes, because you've worked with a number of investors. You're not just an investor yourself. You work with a lot of folks that we meet on Bigger Pockets and places like that, and I send them over to you, and or just folks will get referrals and they'll call you up, and they might be new, right? So what are some of the things that you kind of tell people when they're first getting started and they're looking for a realtor to work with?
So awesome. I mean, thanks again, Mark, for inviting me to talk here. And I love working with you. So, I mean, we have a really great, relationship. And I love how we call each other, kind of ask for tips back and forth on both sides. So getting to the question of what tips I would say, a lot is, investors get really excited at the opportunities for cash flow and things like that. But one major tip I would say is rely on data. And in choosing your realtor, you want to choose a realtor that's very knowledgeable about the area and the process, because they're going to be your guide throughout this whole journey. And so if it's just someone that, I don't know, a friend of a friend that just got their license and doesn't know the area, and they're relying on you to kind of guide them, I mean, if you're a seasoned investor, you may want to go that route. But if you're not, you're just getting your foot in the door, you definitely want a realtor who has that experience. For me, data is very important. So if you're looking to buy and flip to sell, or buy and flip to rent, you want to know comps of buying, you want to know the comps for renting, so that you can make the best decision moving forward.
So how do you normally work with them? Do you just run reports for them, or do you find the properties, or do they tell you what they're, say, hey, what about this house over here? Let's look at that one.
So it really depends on the investor. So if it's someone that kind of knows their areas and things like that, I ask them to say, okay, what areas are you interested in buying? Where do you want to expand your portfolio? And they'll tell me, this area or that area. And if it's someone that's totally brand new to the whole experience, I kind of start with the question of budget. What's your budget? And then depending on your budget, you can kind of outline a certain number of areas. For me personally, I'm very experienced in the Katy West Side area, Energy Corridor, even going down towards Sugar Land, Missouri City, I know very, very well. So, a house may come up for, I don't know, $150,000, something like that, which is whoa, that's a great deal, But I already know that in that area for $150,000, there's going to be millions of people jumping on it. So again, it's kind of okay, well, let me give you some tips, because this one's going to be in a multiple offer situation. So why don't you try this or try that, or let's see how we can strategically put the offer together to win out against the other bidder.
Right. You're competing against other investors, but even sometimes you're competing with people that really want to just live there.
Right. Right.
Good area. And,
definitely.
And not everybody can afford a $300,000 house. So those houses in that 120, 140, 160 range kind of get snapped up really quick. Those are the ones that rent well.
Right, right.
So,
You know, and another thing to consider is, well, actually two factors to consider. Number one, if I'm a first-time home buyer trying to purchase the property to live in, the bank is really going to look and see if it's a livable property. So if it's a property that has no floors or like maybe the stove is not there, automatically the bank is going to deny them. So those kind of properties are really purely for investors who have cash or who have hard money. And the way to be competitive in that is basically who can close the soonest. So, you know, usually it's another investor trying to get rid of a property. So who can get me out of this deal as fast as possible, right?
sure.
So in the other ones, in the houses that are maybe like, I guess, livable but old fashioned, that's where you're going to be competing with multiple people. But the good news is that, and here's where you can help them, Mark, is with a hard money loan, it's going to be able to close faster, which really helps the seller who's just trying to get out of maybe a horrible situation. Maybe they can't make payments anymore or what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. Something's got to be distressed. It's either got to be the situation that the seller's in, or it's got to be the house that's, and usually it's some combination of both, right?
Right, right.
You know,
no, that's right.
You know, when people start getting into rough times financially, you know, you start putting off repairs. You start putting off replacing items that need replacing. You might not fix that little thing that water is leaking into outside in the, you know, next thing you know, you've got a house where there's termites and there's a leak in the garage.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I saw that. You found us that, by the way. Thanks for that. That was huge.
Oh, sure, sure. You remember in that case, it was the situation where the renter didn't tell the landlord and just let a problem grow and grow and grow until it was like a bigger problem.
I don't remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that the landlord was not in Houston. She lived in a different place. So, So, yeah, a lot of things could happen to a property, you know, especially if you don't do routine maintenance or you don't take care of problems right away. It could always lead to a bigger problem. And then it's like, oh, by the way, the bill's going to be like $5,000. And they're all like, how am I going to pay $5,000? Let me just sell it, you know, or
whatnot. Bill for just that. You know, there's other things that need to be done as well. And
right.
It just gets to be, you know, more things than you can deal with. You don't want to drive 5 hours to get down here to deal with it, or you might be coming from out of state even.
Yeah, absolutely. So, which I mean, also that's why I recommend to my investors, if they have multiple properties that they're leasing, to hire a property manager, which Energy Realty does have a property management division. And very good. Exactly.
Nice little plug there.
Yeah, I'm going to throw that in there, but honestly, it's a great tip, you know, because you don't want to be getting phone calls. Oh, this house is leaking. Oh, this one has a roof problem. This one has a plumbing issue. And you're just one person trying to run around and fix everything, call a handyman, can't get the plumber on the phone. Now I can't get this done. So property management just lets you sit back, collect money. That's the best part, right?
That's it. Yeah, those guys earn their money. They do.
Yeah. So I guess, how would you be able to help? I know some investors that I work with have cash and they just buy the house outright. But I do know there are some people who are really excited about investing, but they don't have enough cash to purchase a home. So could you talk to me about how you could help them?
Like, even if you did, I would say keep that money in reserve. You might need it.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to loan. Well, the first thing we're going to do before we even really get going is we're going to figure out what the value of the property is going to be, okay, after you renovate it. That after repair value, that number. And then we're going to loan 70% of that number, okay? Now that number will be kind of split into two parts. Part of it will be your renovation budget. We'll set that aside. and then whatever's left is going to be the money that you can apply toward the purchase of the house.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you can buy the house and do the renovation budget for 70%, great. Then you just pay for closing costs and you're on your way. Not every deal is like that. Sometimes people even roll the closing costs in. They get it cheap enough.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
You don't see that every day, but you see it often enough. Sometimes especially on rent and hold properties, they'll go a little bit over that 70%. And I don't think there's a magic number, but what they're looking for there is a combination. Okay, can I refinance the thing, and what's it going to rent for, and what's the cash flow going to look like, and they're not just looking at the deal the way, just a pure ARV. They're looking at a cash flow, and can I refi out of it type of a thing. So that's how we work. You call us, we're going to figure out that ARV, and then from there, if we decide we're going to move on, we're going to put the loan parameters, and we're going to look at them together to make sure we understand them. And then if you want to move forward, we want to just make sure that you have some reserves.
Okay.
And reserves can be cash, credit. It doesn't have to be just money sitting in a bank account.
Okay.
A lot of people use bank lines. A lot of people will have $10,000-$15,000 lines over at Home Depot or Lowe's or something, and all of that stuff can be kind of accumulated and counted.
I see.
And then
how about if I
because you got to have working capital to manage that rehab.
Right.
We reimburse you after you do the work.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Actually, one of my questions was, what if I own another property? Could that be used as reserves, or it has to be working, like you said, working capital, liquid?
Now, you could go and say, hey, can I get a cash out refi on that property?
Yeah.
And you could.
Yeah.
That'd be a separate loan. Then you take the proceeds and do whatever you want to do.
Sure. Awesome. Well, I mean, that's a good option, definitely for people who are looking to invest and grow, to purchase with hard money and just get your foot in the door is a great way to start. I always say the fastest way to build wealth is to own property, because at the end of the day, people are going to need a place to live, right? I mean, and if you're the person having the place to live, they're going to need you. So, I think that definitely it's a great investment. And the more properties you have, the stronger portfolio you have. And, I'm glad that you guys are there. Jet Lending can help them get to that place.
Well, we've been doing it a while. The guys that are the owners and operators here at the company have been flipping houses in Houston for, 20 years. I think Jet Lending's been around for 16.
Yeah.
So I think between the two of them, they've done about 6,000 houses.
Wow. That is crazy. Yeah.
So they know,
part of like 30% of Houston.
It's just really, you bring a deal in, you analyze it, you put the ARVs together, you go in and look at it, and they ask you, some off the wall question that you never even thought of, because they know. Because they've been doing this. They remember that time 12 years ago when this happened on that corner that caused these other two things to happen.
Sure.
And we got burned on that one. So that's why we want to think about it now.
Right.
And it's just, God, you just learn so much doing it. But yeah, no, for the client, we want to make it as easy as it can be. It's really rewarding, I think.
That's good. Yeah.
It's a fun thing to do.
I will say, like, remodeling is definitely not for the weak of heart.
For me,
we could go back and forth.
I felt like it was jumping out of a plane and then trying to put your chute on after you've already jumped out of the plane.
Right.
Where does this go?
Right. Absolutely.
You can see the ground coming up at you. I'm going to run out of money in about 2 weeks, and then, but talk to me about what are some of the things that you've learned working with flippers. We've talked quite a bit about buy and hold guys. Tell me about listing flips.
Listing flips. Sure. So some investors will put their heart and soul into the property, right? And choose like the highest grade of all finishes. And then they'll come to me and say, can you list my house? I'll give them the comps and let them know, hey, the ranges in this neighborhood are going from, I don't know, let's shoot out a number, 250,000 to 300,000. And they'll look at me and say, well, let's list my house for 350,000. And it's like, oh no. I mean, the most important thing you can do is look at the comps before you renovate. So you know your budget. And because ultimately when you turn around and sell it, if you're going to try to list it 50,000 above what the rest of the neighborhood is selling, really what you're saying to the market is, I'm looking for that one or two people that just love this house, have cash in their pocket, and just want to spend this amount, right? Which unfortunately, again, that could happen, but you might be on the market for a year, 2 years, 3 years, who knows? And as an investor, your goal is to make money.
So what you're saying is you actually kind of mentioned two things, and
yeah,
and you got to be careful of over renovating something.
Correct.
Because you're trying to get to the rest of the neighborhood.
Right.
You're not going to build something that belongs in one neighborhood that's a $1 million house, and you're trying to fit all of those same finishes into a $300,000 house.
Correct.
Makes sense. But the other thing too is listen it at the right price point. But I also think staging made a difference, at least in our case.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I would say in any price range, two things are extremely important. Number one is staging, because, and people don't understand this, but if you have two pictures of an empty room versus a room that is set up nicely, you are creating an emotional connection with a buyer, and therefore that buyer is going to be emotionally invested. Now, me and you both know when people have that emotion, they're going to fight for the contract. They want to make sure that contract goes through. They might even offer higher because, again, they're looking at it like, oh, I could see my family living here, and I could see myself sitting in this beautiful couch by the fireplace. And we all know that couch isn't coming with the house, but again, it's that idea, that thought, right? So staging creates that emotional connection. And number two, professional photos. Oh my gosh, I don't know what it is. People are just snapping pictures with their iPhone camera. But the thing is today, okay, if I told you, Mark, we're gonna go to a restaurant, what's the first thing you're gonna do? You're gonna take your phone and you're gonna look up the restaurant and you're gonna say, oh, I like this dish, I like that dish, and then you'll say, I'm gonna make a reservation. The same thing happens with homes. People are not driving by the street and saying, oh, let me call this person, call that person, call that person, call that person. They're not doing that. They're looking on their phone at the pictures and they'll say, oh, this house looks nice. I'm going to make an appointment for that. They could have a house that is just as beautiful across the street, but because the pictures don't look good, they're not going to make an appointment. And so they're not going to be shown, and then that house is going to sit on the market. So the professional photos and the staging really go into that presentation piece that encourage people to make the appointment. So
well, look, I didn't believe you on the staging until you sold my house in 3 days.
Right?
Then I believe you.
Yeah. Well, we had that weird room in that house too.
And the way that you talked me into it at the time was, look, don't be a moron. I'll do it.
I didn't call you a moron, Mark.
You didn't call me, but you should have. And the thing that really kind of convinced me was it's going to help people. We had a couple of rooms where it wasn't really obvious what the room was for.
Right.
Like what could be here, and you thought, well, the kids could play there, or this could be a study, and we'll put a desk here and a kid thing there, and they'll see the toys and they'll see I got to think that worked.
Yes.
And that had to have played a role, because that one end of the house was just not well defined.
Right.
In terms of space.
Right. No, it
And I
was
think
like a weird setup, right?
if you have a weird floor plan like that, I don't say weird. Weird sounds negative, but a non-standard, kind of ambiguous space,
Yeah,
that if you can stage staging makes up for some inadequacies like that, and it's just not
sure,
expensive.
sure.
So
And if you go back to data, it actually is proven that staged houses sell faster and for more than unstaged houses that are
I mean, it
comparable.
makes a difference when you're paying your hard money bill, folks.
That's right. That's right. That's
You
right.
got to go fast.
Because I think we sold that house where it was like 15,000 above the original comp. And it was 10,000 above any other single story that sold in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, and we got it to appraise, which also remember, we were worried about that. So all of that plays into it. Oh, you weren't worried. Okay. I was worried. Yeah. But I think the staging definitely helped even with the appraiser, because when he walked in, he was like, oh, this is a nice house. And it got us a couple more points there.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it works on
Definitely.
humans, it works on all humans, right?
That's right.
Appraisers
That's
are
right.
humans.
That's right. Definitely. Definitely.
All right. Give me your
Awesome.
phone number one more time. How do people reach you?
Sure, 713-304-5361. You
Okay.
can also follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So
You
just,
should follow her too, because she does a lot of property visits.
yeah.
I enjoy them. I enjoy her walkthroughs a lot.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I enjoy doing them. It's really cool to see the different houses here in Houston.
All right.
So yeah, definitely. Thank you again, Mark, for inviting me. And it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Always a pleasure. Listen, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Take care. Bye.